Hi guys, today I'm here with my October wrap up, but I'm going to be filming it in a different way, the way that I've kind of been doing for the past year anyway, just without filming it. So basically I've got this if you want to call it a book journal. It is a book journal, I suppose. I've bought it from Cath Kidston a while ago. And basically what I do is at the end of every month, I write down everything. So I'll go through it with you in a minute. So I've not read a lot in October, I'm afraid. I wish I could, but it just never happened. I was reading two big books throughout the month. So the books that I have read, one of them is a reread, and that was The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, the first book from a series of the Cemetery of Forgotten books. In this book we follow our main character, who is at the beginning of the book, he is 10 years old. He goes with his father to a cemetery of forgotten books, and then he comes across a book, then he reads it and falls in love with it, tries to find out more about the author, but he can't because there aren't a lot of his books left because somebody's desperately trying to burn all of his books. So there's a mystery surrounding the author of the book. There's a lot more to it, to be honest. It feels like there's a lot of little stories within the story. So this whole cycle, I think is what you call it, is all like intertwined together. So all of the stories are together. They're very complex and complicated, and they're tied up together. So I'm looking forward to reading the second, third, and the fourth books from the series. I've read the first three from this cycle, and there's the fourth one, The Labyrinth of the Spirits, was recently released, but I've decided that I want to reread the first three first before I get to that one. But this one, the first time I read this book, I fell in love with it, absolutely fell in love with it. I gave it 5 stars, I think. No, I think it was 4 stars. This time, somehow, I gave it only 3.5 stars. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe my tastes have changed or something, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I remember. And it is such a shame. It is still written in a very compelling way. It's definitely good and definitely interesting and intriguing and dark and atmospheric and all that. But at the same time, it felt kind of slow going, even though I'm not the one who is really there for action-packed plot because I don't really enjoy such things as much. But just still, or maybe it was the fact that I read this book, I was reading it for a long time, like, I don't know, a few weeks I was reading this book somehow. It was long, and also maybe I was busy, I don't know. But I didn't enjoy it as much as I remember. So that was a big letdown for me, but I still enjoyed it, just not as much as the last time. And then the second book that I finished is Thin Air by Michelle Paver, and that is, like it says, is a ghost story. It is set in 1935. There are 5 people who are going on a big mountain to climb it. And then it says, the bigger they climb and the higher they climb, the darker it gets. I was disappointed with this book again. I gave this one 3 stars. It wasn't great. I wasn't a fan of the language. It is a short book, 220 pages. But for such a short book, I felt like it was somehow dragged. So the pacing wasn't perfect, and the ghost aspect of the book wasn't really there for as much as I would like it to be. It was also focusing on the character, on the I suppose our main character has got a brother, and it was about their relationship and slightly about their past as well. It's not like too much going in depth into it, but still it's still there, and so it felt like another part of the story. But actually I wanted just more from the ghost story. And the end bit, if last, I don't know, 50 or so pages, that was really, really interesting. That was really gripping, and that's what it was, exactly what I was there for. So honestly, just the end gave me what I wanted from this book, but all of it just didn't. And it took me a long time to read this, like 2 weeks or so. And for a book that short, I think it's a bit weird to, a bit like wrong to read it for that long. But I was reading other books as well, and I just sometimes did not want to pick that one up, to be honest with you. So I think it says something. But yeah. Now, my next category goes into DNFs. I did not have any DNFs this month, luckily. Then we go into books I really enjoyed. And that one has a question mark because it is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón again. Just because I enjoyed it in the past, I loved it. So that this book brought me love to this author, and I've read a lot of books by him and I've loved most of them. So, but this time around, like I said, I didn't really enjoy it, so that is under the question mark, but still, it's probably that one. Then we go into books I'm really interested in, and there are 3 this month that I've been thinking about. That is, it's not necessarily the books that I've got on my shelf, it's just the books that I've been interested in, if I want to purchase them, if I want to read them, and things like that. So the first one is The Familiars by Stacey Holes. It is a historical fiction about this girl who's, I think, married to somebody, and then she's trying to get pregnant, but she can't get pregnant, and so she goes to this witch, and then I think she gets pregnant, and then it all has consequences and stuff like that. I saw it in Sainsbury's, I wanted to get it, but at the point I felt like I wasn't really interested in it, and then sometime later I thought, oh my god, I should have got it for half price when it was half price. But I didn't get it, so I'd love to get that one at some point and read it, because that sounds really interesting to me. Another one is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. That will be the sequel to this book, The Bear and the Nightingale. Actually, I've got this one signed. Gordon and Waterstones. I really enjoyed this book. It is based on Russian folklore, I think, and being Russian, I found it really interesting. I found this one quite slow going, but really interesting, and after I finished it I wanted to go straight into the second one. I read it a few months ago now, but it's just for now I keep thinking about the sequel for some reason, so I'd like to get that one at some point too. And then we've got Wake and Hearst by Michelle Paver, and until I started writing this wrap up down, I did not realise that's the same author as this book. So realising it now, I'm not sure if I actually do want to read it that bad, because it sounds really good. It sounds like a gothic sort of mystery novel. I can't remember what it is about, but I think it's quite scary as well. But I saw it in Waterstones, didn't get it at the time because I was very limited to however many books I could buy. Next on my list is the books that I have bought or received, and this month I was really, really good. I did not buy any books myself, but I did receive one as a birthday present from my husband. But basically, long story short, I unsubscribed from Favourite. I was subscribed to them for over a year. But then I realised I'm not into YA fantasy anymore, so I unsubscribed. But then realised that the theme for October was vampires, and I love vampire books. So I really wanted that one. And so he got me that one for my birthday. And so that was the only book that I got in October, and that is The Beautiful by, I can't pronounce this author's name, Renee Ida, I don't know. All I know that it is set in the 19th century in America, and it is a vampire book. So yeah, that's a gorgeous book as well. I'm quite interested to read this one at some point whenever I get to it. Then we go into a very interesting point. TBR at this point is 24 books. Ideally, my TBR is supposed to be 20, but it's not been 20 for a long time, and I can't seem to be able to just shrink it to 20. That's why I'm not really buying any more books anymore. Next thing on my list is authors that I'm interested in, and at the moment there aren't any, so no. Books I'm still in the process of reading or currently reading. One of them is Who We Are and How We Got Here by David Rake, I'm not sure still. It is a non-fiction book about DNA, or rather how DNA was sort of, not exactly changing, but how the science of extracting DNA have been changing. And so it is about how it basically explains in the title who we are and how we got here. So where we came from, who our ancestors are, and things like that. So this is really interesting, but quite detailed and daunting and sciencey. So I find it quite difficult. So I don't always read it, and I find it quite difficult to just pick it back out again, to be honest. And then, of course, I'm still reading Under the Hat under my hat, Tales from the Cauldron. Sorry, I've taken the dust jacket off because I was reading it in the cafe. But I'm not far in, still currently reading that one. And of course, I'm still currently reading Little by Edward Carey. But I'm nearly finished with that one. So, yeah. This one is a historical fiction, and this one is a short story collection about witches. Now, books out of the library. I did not go to the library this month, so none. Then, genres of books read. First of all, it was obviously historical fiction, maybe literary fiction, I'm not sure, one. And also, I'm not sure about the genre, but I think it's like a ghost story, horror fiction, or mystery, and again, in the quantity of one. Then I also have a thing at the end, which is called Thoughts on October 2019. And basically I realised that for me, having a small TBR for the month chosen out of my bigger one that you could potentially see is the shelf with all the candles. That is my physical TBR. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I recently filmed a video about my currently reading, I think, and stuff like that, and in which I explain my TBR system. I've got a TBR box. Most people have a TBR jar. I have a TBR box, which is this cute, pretty tin box. It was with biscuits, but I filled it with my TBR books. And so every month I will try and pick out 5 books from here, so 5 titles. Then I will lay them all out on the floor, choose 3 out of these 5 to read during the month that we are in. And that would be my TBR for the month. And actually, that really helps me not to be overwhelmed by all of the books that are there on my shelf, but all of the books that I could be reading instead, because I've got a small TBR and I can only choose from these 3 books that I've chosen for the month. So I'm not really allowed to go anywhere else. Although I am allowed, because I've got 1 free choice book as well. So that would be like a book a week. But yeah, so I think I've completely lost what I was saying. And actually that does help me a lot not to be overwhelmed and just be comfortable with what I'm reading. And even if I'm reading it for a very long time, I still am okay with that, to be honest. So yeah, that is my wrap up for the month of October. Not a huge amount read, but life happens. I was just probably busy and stuff. But hopefully my November reading month will be much better. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!